When a ruthless gang of outlaws stormed into the quiet town of Red Hawk Bluffs, nobody expected that the woman they dismissed as just another passing drifter would turn out to be the most feared gunslinger in the West. Rachel Finch hid a dark past beneath her quiet exterior, but when innocent lives hung in the balance, she had no choice but to step out from the shadows. As bullets flew and fires burned, Rachel stood her ground facing down the infamous Galen Durning and his gang in an epic battle for justice. But was her courage enough to save an entire town from destruction? And could she finally overcome the ghosts of her own past? Stay tuned to the end to discover the fate of Rachel Finch and the courageous townsfolk of Red Hawk Bluffs. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to support our storytelling and to catch many more thrilling, dramatic, and heartfelt stories. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Dawn creeps across the jagged peaks overlooking Red Hawk Bluffs, a dusty frontier settlement perched on the edge of the Arizona Territory. The year is 1876, and the summer heat has already begun to bake the wide main street. Most folks in Red Hawk Bluffs keep their heads down, shoulders hunched from equal parts despair and scorching sun. A lonely church bell chimes 7 times, echoing in the still air. Into this hush rides a solitary figure on a chestnut mare. Rachel Finch, wearing a plain linen duster and a broad-brimmed hat that casts her face in shadow. She is slight of frame, but there is something in the set of her shoulders, some ineffable steel in her posture that makes passing ranch hands glance twice. She dismounts in front of the Belladonna saloon, dust drifting from her coat as her boots hit the ground. Rachel does not look like a woman seeking trouble. If anything, she appears weary, a traveler wearing the weight of too many miles. Her left hand is gloved, a small tear across the knuckles. Her right hand remains free, unconsciously hovering near her hip. Tucked beneath her duster, the faint outline of a holster can be seen, though few in town notice at first. The saloon is nearly empty at this hour. A couple of men linger, finishing last night's whiskey. Behind the bar is Delia Markham, the saloon's proprietor, a tall, no-nonsense woman whose graying hair frames a face etched by disappointment and midnight prayers. She eyes Rachel with a mixture of guarded curiosity and practiced courtesy. "Morning," Rachel says, doffing her hat. She steps up to the bar. "Coffee if you can spare it." Delia notes the traveler's unusual request. Most folks ask for whiskey and sets about heating a kettle. A flicker of motherly concern passes over her features. "Don't get many visitors this early. I've been riding all night," Rachel says, glancing in the mirror behind the bar. Her eyes flick over her own reflection, sun-kissed cheeks, a pale scar rising just beneath her left ear. She immediately lowers her gaze. Delia pours a steaming cup, slides it over. "You look like you could use more than coffee. Town's got a boarding house just down the road." Rachel offers a small, polite nod. "Much appreciated." There is a softness in her voice, but also a faint quiver, like a taut string ready to snap. A sudden hush grips the saloon. The door swings open, revealing Sheriff Ezekiel Bray, a tall man with a clean-shaven chin and eyes that shift too much. He's flanked by 2 deputies, Boyd Vasquez and the younger wide-eyed Jeremiah Jim. Hardy Bray's star glints ominously. He regards Rachel, silently assessing her. "Morning, Sheriff," Delia greets warily. Bray tips his hat, though his gaze never leaves Rachel. "Didn't expect new folk in town so early. I'm just passing through," Rachel replies, sipping her coffee without flinching beneath his stare. "Most folks headed west pass us by." "Nothing here but dust and heartbreak," Bray remarks. There's tension in his voice, as if he's searching for any sign that Rachel might be trouble. A sudden crash in the street outside breaks the uncomfortable silence. Rachel glances out the saloon's window to see a dented wagon, one wheel off its axle, spilled produce littering the dirt. She downs the last of her coffee, sets the cup on the bar. "Thanks for the coffee." When she steps outside, her eyes narrow. She sees a burly man in a black vest, Waylon Crisp, a known troublemaker, hovering over the wagon's driver. An older farmer, Crisp is leering foot, pressed on a crate of vegetables. His hand hovers near his gun belt, delivering some silent threat. Rachel sets her hat on her head, every muscle going tense. Before Crisp can escalate, she steps forward, her voice firm but calm. "Let the man be. It's just an accident." A crooked grin spreads across Crisp's face. He's tall, broad-shouldered, used to people backing down. "And who might you be, Missy?" Rachel's eyes flick across the street. She notices the sheriff standing in the saloon doorway, arms folded, making no move to intervene. The same hush that fell inside now blankets the street. "I'm no one special," Rachel answers quietly. A subtle shift in her stance suggests otherwise. Crisp snorts. "Then mind your business." Rachel's right hand dangles near her side. The tension is suffocating, thick as a thundercloud. No one breathes for an instant. Crisp considers drawing. But something in Rachel's eyes, something old and wounded, yet fiercely unafraid, holds him. He sneers, gives the farmer a contemptuous shove, and steps away. In that moment, the unspoken truth settles over Red Hawk Bluffs. Something new has arrived, a spark in the dust. And sometimes a single spark is all it takes to set a prairie aflame. That afternoon, Mayor Frederick Dunbar calls a special meeting in the cramped town hall. Word spreads quickly that a lone woman intervened in Waylon Crisp's bullying, practically glaring him down without drawing her weapon. The mayor, an aging man with a thinning hairline and worry lines etched by the constant strain of trying to hold a fracturing town together, hopes to calm tensions. Half the town's notable figures attend perched on mismatched wooden chairs. Sheriff Bray stands with his deputies near the back, arms folded. Delia Markham sits in front, as does Ellen Shore, the boarding house proprietor, and Sam Tolliver, a local blacksmith with soot-stained hands. There's an empty seat reserved for Crisp, but he's conspicuously absent. Rachel Finch waits near a window face, impassive. She didn't ask to be here, the mayor insisted. She suspects it's more about making a point. Dunbar wants to show the community they still have a semblance of law and order. Clearing his throat, Mayor Dunbar addresses the uneasy gathering. "We all know the last year has been hard. The Durning gang has grown bold, pressing folks off their lands. We've had more accidents than I can count." He doesn't need to elaborate. Everyone recalls the farmland fires, the mysteriously sabotaged wells. Galen Durning, the rumored leader, holds sway over outlaws across the territory, though seldom has anyone seen him in broad daylight. The mayor continues, "Sheriff Bray is doing all he can, but resources are thin." A flicker of tension crosses the sheriff's face. He can sense blame approaching. "We can't afford to lose any more good folks to the Durning gang's intimidation." Delia Markham speaks up, eyes keen. "Then what's the plan, Mayor? We can't just pray them away." "Indeed," Dunbar says gravely. "We're going to request official help from the territorial governor. But until that cavalry arrives, if it ever does, we must stand firm. We must not give in to bullies or fearmongers." At that, Bray's lips tighten. Begging the governor for help could take months. If Durning sets his sights on Red Hawk Bluffs, we won't last a week. Uneasy murmurs ripple through the assembly. Sam Tolliver, arms folded across his barrel chest, chimes in, "Some of us can fight if we have a reason, if the law stands with us." A pointed stare at Bray. The sheriff bristles. "My office stands for the law, blacksmith. But I won't lead men into a suicidal standoff with a gang of over 30 guns." Rachel listens, arms clasped behind her back. She notices how fear underpins every statement. The mention of the Durning gang is enough to make hearts race. Finally, the mayor gestures to Rachel. "We have a stranger in our midst who showed a bit of bravery earlier. Let's hear from Miss Finch." Rachel clears her throat. "I'm no orator, Mayor, and I'm not looking to tangle with local trouble." Her gaze sweeps the room, but I've seen what fear does to towns. It hollows them out from the inside, makes honest folks shrink away until there's nothing left worth defending. Delia leans forward. "You face down Crisp. He works for Durning's men." That took more than bravery, it took nerve. Sheriff Bray shoots Rachel a skeptical look. "That was a fool's stunt. Crisp was likely testing you. He likes making examples out of people who cross him. You did nothing to stop it." Sam Tolliver mutters, eyes narrowing at Bray. "Now hold on, blacksmith." Bray snaps, "I can't be everywhere at once. And Crisp hasn't technically broken any laws except maybe intimidation, which is hard to prove when folks clam up." A bitter hush. "Everyone knows Crisp, and by extension, Durning uses intimidation as a weapon. It's how farmland got sold for pennies on the dollar, how families decided to leave under the cloak of night." Rachel chooses her words carefully, mindful of the town's fragile morale. "I'm just passing through, but I've learned you can't wait for an official badge to solve your problems. You stand together or you fall alone. She doesn't add that she's seen entire towns fall while the sheriff looked on helplessly. The memory still knots her stomach. Mayor Dunbar offers a grateful nod. Thank you, Miss Finch. Then raising his voice to the room, we'll continue to meet daily. Keep lines of communication open. If the Durning gang shows signs of moving in, I expect every able-bodied person to stand in defense. The tension in the hall remains high. People shuffle out unconvinced. As Bray passes Rachel, he fixes her with a cold stare. You're meddling in things you don't understand. Miss Finch, tread lightly, she watches him go, her pulse thrumming with a quiet anger. In the hush that follows, Delia approaches, resting a sympathetic hand on Rachel's shoulder. I'm sorry, he's complicated. Rachel only nods. She's seen men like Bray before, caught between self-preservation and a job that demands impossible courage. It rarely ends well. She steps outside into the searing afternoon sun, uncertain if she's just made her first ally or her first enemy in this dusty town. One thing's certain, Red Hawk Bluffs is a powder keg and Durning's fuse burns steadily closer. The midday sun glares down on the Fenmore boarding house, a modest two-story structure that once served as an inn for travelers heading to California's goldfields. On the sagging porch, Ellen Shore, a stout woman with kind eyes, welcomes Rachel, showing her to a small upstairs room overlooking the main street. As they climb the narrow stairs, Ellen glances back at her guest. You seem decent enough, Miss Finch. Not sure you'll find kindness from everyone around here, though. Lot of folks are on edge. Rachel follows, stepping gingerly over a squeaking board. I've noticed the trouble from the Durning gang. She trails off. Her wariness of naming the gang is a reflex. Back east, she learned early that names carry power. Ellen sighs. They've cost us good people. Family of 4, the Chittendens, they vanished one night. Another family's barn burned down. And Crisp, he's their enforcer, always skulking about. They reach the room humble but clean. A small bed, a basin, a window with patched curtains. Rachel drops her satchel on the bed. I appreciate the lodging. I might only stay a spell. Ellen nods, sympathy in her eyes. We all say that. When we first arrive, Red Hawk Bluffs isn't exactly a paradise, but folks who leave never do so by choice. Not these days. She hesitates, as if on the verge of saying more, then swallows her words. I'll let you settle in. Left alone, Rachel unbuttons her duster, revealing a dark vest and the well-worn holster at her side. She sets her hat on the foot of the bed and briefly studies her reflection in the cracked mirror above the basin. Dark circles underscore her eyes, testaments to nights spent riding or wrestling with old ghosts. A memory flickers the funeral. Her husband Amos laid to rest 3 years back. The heartbreak that followed still lingers, fueling an unsteady resolve to protect those who can't protect themselves. She closes her eyes, inhaling slowly. This is supposed to be a simple stop on her westward journey, a chance to rest, and maybe deep down to find a place to start anew. But trouble has a habit of finding her, no matter how hard she tries to keep her head down. A soft knock at the door jolts her from her memories. She opens it to find Jem Hardy, the youngest deputy, hat in hand, looking sheepish. Ma'am, sorry to bother. Sheriff Bray sent me to fetch you. Says you should come down to the station. If you're willing. Did he say why? Rachel's voice tightens. She imagines Bray looking to scold her for interfering in Crisp's intimidation earlier. Not exactly. He mentioned something about, an opportunity. Jem's tone suggests confusion. Probably best to hear it from him. Rachel studies Jem for a moment. He appears genuine, maybe naive. All right, let me grab my hat. Moments later, Rachel finds herself walking alongside the deputy through the dusty street toward the sheriff's station, a modest wood building with peeling paint. As they enter, she notices a single holding cell empty. The place smells of stale coffee and old leather. Sheriff Bray stands at a battered desk, rummaging through piles of papers. He looks up, forces a tight smile. Miss Finch. Glad you could make it. Rachel crosses her arms. Deputy Hardy said something about an opportunity. Mind explaining? Bray clears his throat, glancing at Jem. Go check on that noise out back. After Jem exits, Bray focuses on Rachel. He's green but honest. Don't want him overhearing just yet. Rachel's gaze narrows. Go on. The sheriff gestures to a wanted poster pinned to a board. The sketch depicts Galen Durning. Sharp features, a scar along his jaw. That's the man behind all our troubles. The territorial marshal's office has a bounty on him. Big money enough to change someone's fortunes. But Durning's cunning. Nobody's come close to collecting. Rachel remains silent. She senses a trap. Bray continues. I need help, and I can see you're no ordinary traveler. Crisp's reaction told me you've got a way about you fearless, or maybe just reckless. Either way, you might be able to get close to Durning in a way I can't. She raises an eyebrow. Why me? Because I can't trust anyone else. Half the town might be on his payroll. I'm not sure I need an outsider. Someone with skill. His gaze drifts to the sidearm at Rachel's hip. You don't flinch around bullies. And if you turn down my request, I suspect you'll move on before Durning sets his sights on you. Silence stretches. Rachel knows bounty hunting is a dangerous game, especially against a well-connected outlaw. She also senses Bray's desperation. What's in it for me, she asks, voice low. Besides the bounty, Bray meets her eyes. I can promise safe passage. Help you get supplies, fresh horses, if you're heading farther west. The difference is you ride out chasing Durning, or he eventually comes here, and we all burn. I'd rather meet him on our terms. Rachel weighs her options. She came looking for rest, not a gunfight. But in a flash, she recalls Crisp's cruel grin, the farmer trembling at his mercy. The image stirs her guilt. I'll think on it, she says at last. No promises. Sheriff Bray exhales relief flickering in his expression. That's all I can ask. She turns to leave, footsteps echoing on the warped floorboards. Just before she steps outside, she catches a reflection in the glass door. The star pinned to Bray's chest, glaring almost as brightly as the sun outside. A small emblem of law overshadowed by a far larger menace, one that might devour them all if she says no. Late afternoon sunlight filters through the windows of Delia Markham's saloon, illuminating floating dust motes in golden light. The crowd here has grown drawn by cheap whiskey and uncertain times. Rachel sits at a corner table, swirling water in a chipped glass, turning Bray's proposal over in her mind. She's not naive, going after Galen. Durning is nearly suicidal, but the alternative waiting for him to arrive feels worse. A life spent fleeing from trouble doesn't erase the nightmares. Maybe standing her ground will across the saloon. Sam Tolliver chats quietly with Elias Burns, a middle-aged rancher who's clutching his hat as if it might run away. Their conversation drifts toward Rachel's table. Words of worry about land deeds, stolen cattle, and Crisp's growing boldness. Delia approaches with a plate of stew, sets it in front of Rachel. On the house, she says, a voice gentle. Rachel wants to protest, but sees the determined kindness in Delia's eyes. Figure you could use a real meal. Thank you, Rachel murmurs, touched by the gesture. Town's talking about you, Delia adds. Word spreads fast when someone stares down Waylon Crisp and doesn't blink. Rachel grimaces. I'd rather not be a topic of gossip. Just trying to keep the peace. Delia slides into the seat across from her, lowering her voice. Peace doesn't come cheap around here. Sheriff Bray's got good intentions, but I'm not sure he's got the backbone to stand up when it matters. You saw how he left Crisp alone. Rachel glances at the stew, stirring it absently. She imagines Delia might have a deeper reason for helping. You've been here a while. I take it long enough to watch this town choke on fear. She sighs, gaze drifting to the window. Yeah, I had a husband once. He was shot dead in the street when he tried to stop an outlaw from beating a stable boy. The old sheriff did nothing. That's Red Hawk Bluffs for you. Good people die, and the guilty walk free. Sympathy washes over Rachel. She reaches out, squeezes Delia's hand gently. I'm sorry. Before Delia can respond, the saloon doors swing open with a bang. In strides Waylon. Crisp himself, eyes scanning the room until they land on Rachel. A hush falls. Crisp tips his hat mockingly, a predator's grin creasing his unshaven cheeks. Well, if it ain't the meddling drifter, he drawls loud enough for all to hear. Delia stiffens, Rachel calmly. Sets her spoon down, meets Crisp's gaze. Afternoon, Crisp chuckles, steps closer. The hairs on the back of Rachel's neck prickle. What's your game, sweetheart? You think you're some hero. People in this town know better than to rock the boat. Rachel stands slowly, refusing to be loomed over. She's a head shorter, but her stance is controlled. I'm just passing through. Is that so? Crisp's expression twists. Because it seems to me you've been poking your nose in things. The sheriff's station, the mayor's meeting. Delia rises as well, heart pounding. She says nothing, but her presence is defiant. Crisp takes a menacing step forward, ignoring Delia. Let me give you some free advice. The Durning gang runs these parts. You cause trouble. You get burned. Understand? Rachel keeps her hands by her sides, voice cool. I've faced bigger threats than you, Crisp. But if you're here to make a move, do it. She can't believe the calm in her tone. Though her pulse thunders, the tension is palpable. Crisp's lip curls, but he hesitates. He's not entirely sure who he's dealing with. The memory of her unwavering glare that morning still lingers. A single bead of sweat slides down Crisp's temple. He finally huffs, forcing a mocking smile. Suit yourself. His voice lowers only loud enough for Rachel and Delia to hear. But trust me, you're not walking away unscathed. He turns and saunters out, leaving a hush in his wake. People exhale as though they've been holding their breaths for hours. Delia meets Rachel's gaze. Gratitude and worry mingling in her eyes, Rachel sits down, forcing herself to resume eating the stew, though her appetite is gone. She can feel the eyes of the saloon on her, some filled with admiration, others brimming with terror, that Crisp will return with vengeance. In that moment, she realizes she's crossed a line of no return. Crisp won't forget this, and if Galen Durning gets wind that an unknown gunslinger is meddling in his domain, the full wrath of his gang will come crashing down. Rachel whispers to herself under the din of renewed conversations. So much for passing through. The stew grows cold, untouched, as she steels herself for whatever storm Crisp aims to bring. Night drapes over Red Hawk Bluffs, the sky a tapestry of stars. Lantern light flickers in windows along the main street, but fewer remain lit than in days past. Fear has a way of driving folks behind locked doors. Rachel stands on the narrow balcony of the Fenmore boarding house, arms folded to ward off the evening chill. She peers toward the western horizon. She had planned to ride west, away from old memories, away from ghosts that still haunt her dreams. But now she's tangled in another fight. She hears a gentle step on the balcony behind her. Turning, she finds Ellen Shore wearing a shawl, her kind eyes reflecting concern. You should get some rest, dear. You'll catch cold out here. Rachel offers a wry smile. I've ridden nights through rain and snow, ma'am. A desert breeze won't do me in. She glances away. Thank you, though. Ellen steps beside her. Earlier I saw Crisp leave the saloon in a mood foul enough to spook a rattler. You all right? Rachel exhales. I'll manage it to the rest of you. I worry about if Crisp or Durning decide to send a message, they won't just come after me. Ellen nods, eyes drifting to the darkened main street. That's the fear we all live with, night after night. She hesitates, then adds quietly. A year ago, there was a man, Matthew Keller. He tried to rally us against the Outlaws. Crisp shot him in front of the Mercantile. People got scared. They gave up. Rachel's jaw tightens. They made an example of him. Yes, Ellen's voice trembles with grief. He had 2 little boys. They left town soon after to stay with relatives. I've not heard from them since the moon cast pale light on Rachel's face, illuminating the old sadness in her eyes. She lifts her gaze to the stars, remembering a night like this in another town where her late husband had tried to stand up for justice and paid with his life. She promised herself she would never again stand idle if she had the power to help Ellen. Rachel says softly, do you want me to leave? The question is raw, filled with guilt. I don't want to bring more trouble here. A flicker of surprise crosses Ellen's face. No. In fact, I think you might be the best thing to happen to this town in a long while. We've needed someone unafraid to confront Crisp. Someone who hasn't been beaten down by the routine of fear. She gently touches Rachel's arm. But be careful. Rachel studies the older woman's steady gaze, sees the quiet plea there. With a tight nod, she answers, I will. They both turn as a distant noise breaks the hush. Faint hoofbeats galloping into town. A single rider, silhouette lit by the moon, makes for the sheriff's station. Rachel squints, making out the shape of a young man. Possibly a messenger. Ellen wraps her shawl closer around her shoulders. Reckon that's some news from out of town. Could be Rachel's voice, lowers good or bad. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Moments later, a lantern flares in the window of the station. The newcomer must have delivered urgent tidings. Rachel can almost feel the tension. Her instincts scream that things are about to escalate. She offers Ellen a brief, reassuring nod and heads inside down the stairs. Curiosity driving her to see what midnight news has arrived. Exiting the boarding house, she carefully walks the dimly lit street until she sees the station inside. Sheriff Bray, paces brow furrowed. The messenger, a lanky, wide-eyed teenager, trembles as he speaks. Before she can step closer, she sees Bray's expression darken. That look alone confirms the news is grim. As Rachel lingers under the station's porch lamp, Bray spots her through the window. He waves her in, not in the manner of a man with choice, but as one resigned to necessity. Her boots clack on the station's wooden floor. Sheriff Bray grimaces, nods to the boy. This here is Ty Walters from a ranch about 15 miles north. He huffs, removing his hat to run a hand through his hair. Ty's family was attacked by a group of men in the night, said they claimed to be collecting a protection fee for the Durning gang when his father refused. Bray can't finish. Ty's voice quavers. Tears brimming in his eyes, they shot Pa in the leg. Ma's trying to stop the bleeding. They burned our barn too. Rachel closes her eyes. The gang's tactics are increasing in brutality. Any reason they'd single out your ranch? We wouldn't sell. A man came by last week offering a pittance to buy us out. Pa told him to go to hell. Guess that was the wrong answer. Ty rubs the back of his sleeve across his eyes. Sheriff Bray's tone is raw. I'd ride up there myself if I didn't suspect this is the first of many attacks. They're turning the screws, sowing fear before an all-out move on the town. Rachel's stomach twists. She pictures Crisp's sneer. We can't leave those people defenseless, she says, voice steely. We have to help them. Bray sets his jaw. I was hoping you'd say that. In the flicker of the lantern light, Rachel sees the lines of worry etched deeper on Bray's face. Tomorrow might bring the start of a war. Whether she wanted it or not, Rachel Finch is now part of it. A faint glow edges the eastern sky when Rachel and Sheriff Bray ride out toward the Walters Ranch, accompanied by Deputy Jem Hardy and Sam Tolliver, who volunteered in a moment of grim determination. They travel in tense silence, each lost in private anxieties about what they'll find. The journey takes them along a narrow dirt road bordered by scraggly mesquite trees. Occasionally the path widens to reveal scorched patches of grass, hints of the dryness that can spark an inferno at the slightest provocation. Rachel can't help but think of how a similar dryness afflicts Red Hawk Bluffs. Any stray spark of violence might consume the whole town. They arrive at sunrise. The Walters Ranch is small, a modest house overlooking a half-burned barn. Smoke still curls from the embers. Ty's mother, arms blackened with soot, kneels beside Ty's father, who lies on a makeshift cot. His pant leg is soaked in blood. Sam Tolliver dismounts, rushing to help. Let me see that wound. The blacksmith isn't a doctor, but he's patched up enough injuries in his trade to be useful. Rachel kneels beside them, quietly assessing the burn marks on the barn's remains. How many men came? Ty's mother voice. Horse looks up. There were 4. One I recognized from around these parts, a man who rides with Crisp. The others I'd never seen. Bray's mouth sets in a thin line. Fists clenching at his sides, they left a warning. She nods, tears glinting in the early light, said if we didn't pay by week's end, the next time they'd leave us with nothing, or they'd do worse to my husband. Deputy Jem Hardy, face grim, tries to soothe her. We'll see to it they pay for what they've done, ma'am. But the conviction in his voice sounds shaky. Rachel stands scanning the horizon. The early sun bathes the land in gold, incongruously beautiful, against the violence inflicted here. She turns to Bray. We could chase them down. They can't have gone far. Bray exhales heavily. We might find them. Might not. Then we risk an ambush. Durning's men could be hiding out. He glances at Mr. Walters. He needs a doctor, but ours left town months ago. Closest is in Mesa Ford, a day's ride away. They chose this spot to make a statement. Rachel's voice holds anger. They'll keep doing it until we're too rattled to fight back. Sam looks up from the wounded man. We need bandages, medicine. If we can stabilize him, he'll have a chance. But we can't move him in this condition. Ty's mother sniffles, voice trembling. You have to stop them. We can't pay. This land is all we have, but it's worthless to them except for a vantage near that creek. Bray steeples his fingers, struggling with the impossible. I'll do what I can, but we're shorthanded. The mayor's waiting on that governor's reply, which might never come. Rachel sees the quiet despair in Ty's mother's eyes and steps away seething. She gazes at the scorched barn, the battered man, the fearful family. Images of her own past swirl. Amos lying dead on the floor of a saloon, her own powerless scream. She spent years trying to outrun that memory, but it finds her at every turn, Sheriff. She says with renewed resolve, let me lead a small posse track them. If we catch at least one alive, we can learn where Durning's main camp is. Bray looks torn. You're not a deputy. If this goes wrong, you have no official. I'm not asking for a star, just permission. Rachel's tone is sharp. She can't abide more innocent suffering. He finally nods. Fine. Take Sam and Jem. I'll stay here, help the Walters family, maybe get more folks to join. We can't let them bleed us dry. Relief and dread mix in Rachel's veins. We'll need a wagon to bring them back or two. She doesn't finish. If there's a shootout, they may be hauling bodies. Ty steps forward, eyes wide. I want to help. His mother tries to pull him back, but he insists. They hurt my pa. I know how to track. I've hunted coyotes in these parts since I was a kid. Rachel's heart twists at his determination, so young, already learning how fragile safety is, but a surge of respect surfaces too. All right, but you stick close. No heroics. Sam stands wiping sweat from his brow. I'll keep an eye on him. With that, Rachel, Sam, Jem and Ty gather their horses. They load minimal supplies into a small cart for Ty's use. He rides a battered mare while the cart follows. The family stands by, anxious but also relieved that someone is doing something. As they ride out, the rising sun throws long shadows across the ground, silent witnesses to the day's uncertainty. Rachel's mind whirls with the plan. Find the outlaws, hit hard and fast. Bring back answers. She's done it before, though never alone. This time she can't afford half measures. In the distance, a hawk circles, screeching into the brightening sky. An omen, maybe, of conflicts to come. Rachel sets her jaw and spurs her horse onward. She won't let Red Hawk Bluffs become a graveyard for hope not again. They follow hoof prints along a dry creek bed, Ty's keen young eyes guiding them where the ground is soft enough for tracks. The warm morning sun climbs higher, intensifying the dusty heat. Rachel in the lead scans the horizon. Beside her, Sam Tolliver rides with tense shoulders. Deputy Jem Hardy trails slightly behind, uneasy but resolved, and Ty Walters clings to his mare's reins, jaw set in steely determination. They come upon a rocky outcrop where the creek bed curves sharply. Ty halts, raising a hand. Wait! He slips from his saddle, crouching low to examine prints. Looks like 4 riders. They might have camped here, but it's hard to tell. Rachel dismounts, stoops beside Ty. She runs her fingertips over crushed grass, noticing recent ash from a small campfire. They spent the night, or at least stopped for a meal. Sam scans the perimeter with a practiced eye. No sign of them now. They could be hours ahead. Jem, rifle over his shoulder, looks around nervously. We sure we want to keep going? If Crisp is among them. Rachel stands. They shot Ty's father and burned a barn. Crisp or not, these men need to face justice. She glances at the boy. Ty, head back to your horse. Keep watch. They lead the horses through a narrow ravine. The rising heat wraps them in shimmering waves. Every so often, they come upon fresh tracks, indicating the outlaws haven't gained too much distance. But as they press on, the land grows rockier, the trails more convoluted, a perfect place for an ambush. Eventually, they spot something glinting in the sun, a small piece of metal on the ground. Ty dismounts, retrieves it. It's a spent cartridge, likely from a revolver. They're close, Sam mutters, scanning the scrubby bushes. Stay sharp, a hush falls heavy with possibility. They proceed slowly, hearts pounding. Then a flurry of movement, gunfire cracks the still air. Bullets ricochet off rock, down. Rachel shouts, diving behind a boulder. She flicks a hand at Ty, who scrambles behind a fallen log. Sam and Jem drop, low rifles pointed uphill. Atop the ridge, 3 shapes appear, bandits' rifles in hand. The muzzle flashes reveal one to be an older man with a battered hat. The others remain in silhouette. Shots echo, dust plumes as bullets strike near Rachel's position. She unholsters her revolver, returning fire with measured calm. Her second shot catches one bandit in the shoulder. He yells, dropping out of sight. Jem hands trembling fires but misses. "They've got the high ground," he shouts. Sam huddles, checking his rifle. "We need to flush them out." Rachel gauges the terrain. If they stay pinned here, they'll be easy pickings. "Sam, cover me." Jem circle, left thigh stay low. A bullet whizzes overhead as Sam sends a covering shot. Rachel darts forward, her boots skidding on gravel. She crouches behind another outcrop, breathing hard. She peeks around, spots the older bandit reloading behind a rock. From the corner of her eye, she sees Jem creeping along a side path, trying to flank them. Another gunshot rings out. Jem yelps as a bullet grazes his thigh. He stumbles behind a shrub, cursing. Rachel clenches her jaw. She can't let this turn into a bloodbath. Summoning every bit of nerve, she shouts over the rocky terrain, "Throw down your weapons. We only need answers. No one else needs to die." Silence except for labored breathing and shifting gravel. Then a mocking laugh echoes from the ridge. "Answers, huh? You come after us, you get led. That's the only answer." Rachel exhales frustration mingling with fear. She motions for Sam to move forward, but just as he does, a bandit leaps from cover, firing wildly. Sam ducks a bullet that splinters rock. Rachel pivots, aims, and squeezes the trigger. The bandit's gun goes flying as he collapses with a cry, shot in the arm. A third outlaw emerges brandishing a shotgun. He levels it at Rachel until a quick shot from Ty's small rifle slams into the ground near the man's feet. The outlaw recoils, startled. That split second is all Rachel needs. She fires and the shotgun clatters away. Panting, the outlaws realize the fight is lost. The older man raises both hands, fury burning in his eyes. "Damn you!" he growls. Rachel keeps her revolver trained. "Tell your men to lay down their guns." Slowly they comply. Jem hobbles over, bleeding from his thigh. But alive, Sam rushes to disarm the wounded. Ty remains behind cover chest. Heaving, stunned by the violence, Rachel's heart pounds. She can't believe they pulled it off with minimal injury. She nods toward Jem. "Sit, we'll patch you up soon." Then she fixes her gaze on the older man, presumably their leader. His face is etched with rage and resignation. "You attacked the Walters ranch, shot a man, burned a barn. Why?" He spits at the ground. "We do what we're told. That ranch was refusing to pay. Who told you she demands?" A cruel smile cracks his lips. "You know damn well who Galen Durning doesn't like defiance." Rachel clenches her jaw. "Where's Crisp?" The outlaw shrugs. He's on his way back to the main camp. "Big plans for your cozy little town." Sam lifts his rifle, eyes cold. "You're gonna help us stop those plans?" The man only laughs, a hollow sound against the desert wind. "Stop it, you'd need an army." A chill snakes up Rachel's spine. She glances at her wounded companions, the fear in Ty's eyes. The fight to protect Red Hawk Bluffs has only just begun, and the next wave might be far deadlier. Sunlight slices through the slatted windows of Red Hawk Bluff's makeshift jail, casting striped shadows on the dusty floor. The building was never intended to hold more than one or two miscreants at a time, but now it contains 3 battered outlaws, each confined to a cramped cell. Rachel Finch leans against a wooden post, arms crossed, observing the captives. They glare back, especially the older man, Harlan Seeger, who led the ambush. His left arm is bandaged where Rachel's bullet grazed him, courtesy of Sam Tolliver's crude field dressings. Sheriff Bray paces near his desk, occasionally shooting a suspicious glance at Rachel deputy. Jem Hardy sits on a bench, leg bandaged, wincing when he shifts positions outside the midday heat broils. Finally, Bray stops pacing. These men are willing to talk somewhat, but they want deals. No hangings, reduced sentences. They shot a man and burned his barn. Rachel says bluntly, "Are we supposed to just let that slide?" Bray's mouth twitches. "I'm not saying that, but if they can lead us to Crisp and eventually Durning, we have to consider bargains. The bigger fish we catch, the safer we'll be." Jem chimes in, voice laced with resentment. "Seems like we're letting criminals walk free to catch other criminals. Where's the justice in that?" Rachel exchanges a glance with Jem. There's a shared distaste for compromise with killers. But she also knows from long experience that sometimes you need informants to topple a kingpin. "I'll talk to them," she says quietly. Moving to the cells, Harlan Seeger watches her approach, a venomous smirk tugging at his lips. "Look who's come to interrogate me," the fancy shootist Rachel keeps her face impassive. "You've made your choices. Keep quiet and you'll face the gallows. Talk and maybe Sheriff Bray can work out a lesser sentence." Seeger feigns a yawn. "I'd rather swing than rat, but not all of us feel the same." He nods toward the younger outlaw in the adjacent cell, a wiry man named Jonas Greeley. Jonas fidgets with his bandaged arm, sweating profusely. Rachel steps to Jonas's cell. "You want to speak?" Jonas hesitates, eyes darting between Bray, Rachel, and Seeger. Finally, he swallows. "I don't want to die or do life in Yuma prison. If I help you, I need your word. I won't hang." Bray interjects from behind, voice taut. "That depends on what you give us." Jonas closes his eyes, trembling. "Durning's planning something big. Crisp has been scouting farms, ranches. They aim to force the entire region under their protection. Then they'll use Red Hawk Bluffs as their base. The mayor, they say they already own him." Rachel's head snaps up. Mayor Dunbar's in Durning's pocket. Seeger barks a laugh. "You didn't think that sniveling coward was squeaky clean? Did ya?" Rachel and Bray exchange a stunned look. "The mayor's pleas for help, the daily town meetings. It might have all been a ploy, or perhaps the mayor was coerced. They can't be sure." Jonas continues, voice shaky. Crisp is heading back to the main hideout in the canyon, near Coyote Pass. They've got stockpiles of ammo, hired guns coming in from out-of-state Durnings. Not just after your town, he wants the entire territory under his thumb. An uneasy silence weighs on the station. The scope of Durning's ambition surpasses anything Rachel or Bray anticipated. Bray's brow creases. "Where is Durning now?" Jonas shrugs. He moves around. "But Crisp will meet him soon at that canyon camp. If you catch Crisp on the road, you might pin down Durning's location." Rachel steps away from the cell, heart pounding. She stares at Bray. "We can't do this alone. Crisp rides with an entire gang, maybe dozens of men. We need help from other towns or the territorial marshal." Bray rubs his temples. "Marshal's office is 2 weeks' ride from here at best. And who knows if we can trust other towns some might be allied with. Durning out of fear. We're stuck, Finch." Her gaze flickers to Jem, who's fiddling with the handle of his gun. The youthful deputy looks both determined and terrified. She draws in a deep breath, wrestling with anger at the system that forces them into these corners. Then she thinks of the Walters family and the countless others who might be next. She can't let Durning's empire grow. She glances at Bray. "You set terms with Jonas. I'll try to confirm if the mayor's dirty. We need to know who in town we can rely on." Bray nods. "Fine, I'll keep these men under close watch. If Crisp or Durning come looking for them, we'll at least have some leverage." Rachel starts for the door, each step heavier than the last. The threshold from the station to the blistering daylight feels like crossing a line into uncharted territory. If the mayor is truly in league with Durning, then Red Hawk Bluffs might be rotten at its core. Outside, the sun beats down. Rachel silently curses the scorching heat and the larger furnace of corruption. She won't back down, though. If she has to unmask a traitorous mayor to save this town, so be it. Rachel strides toward the town hall, each step fueled by a mixture of determination and dread. Along the way, she notices subtle signs of Red Hawk Bluff's unrest shutters, closed in midday, hushed whispers at doorways, an unsettling quiet that hints at tension simmering beneath dusty facades. Inside the modest building, Mayor Frederick Dunbar sits behind a warped oak desk, fiddling with paperwork. He looks up in surprise when Rachel enters, unannounced. "Miss Finch, something urgent." She doesn't mince words. "I spoke with a captured outlaw. He claims you're in league with Galen." Durning Dunbar's eyes widen color, draining from his face. "That's absurd," he sputters, rising from his chair. "I've done everything in my power to protect this town." Rachel's stare is unyielding. "Have you?" She steps closer, forcing him to meet her gaze. "People say you're stalling, that you haven't really sent for the governor's help." He clutches the lapels of his threadbare coat. I did send a wire weeks ago, in fact. But with no telegraph station in town, I had to rely on a rider to deliver the message. I can't help it if the response is slow in coming. She studies him, noting beads of sweat forming on his brow. But Crisp and Durning have been pressuring landowners burning property. You've barely tried to rally folks? They're losing faith. Mayor Dunbar's face trembles. He slumps into his chair, pressing fingers to his temples. You don't understand what it's like. We're outnumbered. If I push too hard, Durning's men will raze this town to the ground. Rachel's jaw sets. So you'd rather collude with them? He shakes his head, a frantic denial. I'm not colluding. I'm stalling, buying us time. Durning's offered me a deal if I keep things quiet. Let him operate. He won't kill anyone else. A bloodless transition, he calls it. Cold fury washes through Rachel. You're trading the town's future for a ceasefire that won't last. People are already getting hurt. Dunbar's voice wavers. I never wanted this. This place is my life's work. If Durning takes over, at least the buildings might remain. That's more than I can say if we stand and fight. Rachel leans over the desk, eyes flashing. They shot a rancher just last night. They're terrorizing families. How can you stand by and call that bloodless? He buries his face in his hands, tears welling up. You think I don't know how hopeless it is? The sheriff can't protect us. There's no cavalry coming. So yes, I told Crisp. I'd keep folks calm, discourage any real resistance. I hope some miracle would arrive before we lost everything. A wave of pity tempers Rachel's anger. She recognizes the stench of fear, warping good intentions. She steps back, inhaling to steady herself. I understand the pressure you're under, but your brand of peace is no peace at all. It's surrender. Dunbar's shoulders sag. What choice do I have, Miss Finch? She squares her jaw, recalling every town that gave up its spirit to outlaws. You have the choice to fight. If you can't fight physically, you can at least help those who will. You could expose Crisp's deals, rally the citizens for real defense. Strength in numbers, he looks away haunted. Most folks are too scared to stand up, and Crisp's men have eyes everywhere. Rachel's silence falls like a hammer. She sees a frightened man, not an evil one, but someone whose terror has become a chain around the town. Then we break those chains, she says softly. Because if we don't, Durning and Crisp will own this place forever. The mayor lifts his gaze, tears in his eyes. What do you propose? She keeps her voice low, as if conspirators might be lurking in the hall shadows. Sheriff Bray and I are gathering evidence. We're going to confront Crisp's men. If you have any documents, records of bribes or threats, bring them to me. Let's show the town who's truly behind these crimes. Dunbar hesitates, torn. Then with trembling hands, he unlocks a desk drawer and retrieves a small bundle of letters. These came from Crisp's men. They demanded I quietly sign over the water rights to them in exchange for protection. I never sent the signed documents back, but I also never told anyone. She takes the letters, scanning them quickly. Their explicit demands for monthly payments, threats of violence. If uncooperative, Crisp's signature loops at the bottom in a flourish. This could help, Rachel says, tucking the letters in her vest. It shows the extent of their grip. Thank you. Dunbar rubs his eyes. You're gambling with all our lives. You know that, right? Rachel nods, her face grim. We're already gambling. I'd rather wager on our courage than let fear drain the life out of this town. They stand in heavy silence for a moment, an unspoken alliance forged in desperation. Finally, Rachel turns to leave, letters in hand. Dunbar calls after her, voice shaking. You find that miracle, Miss Finch, and I'll stand beside you. She glances over her shoulder, a spark of determination in her eyes. We make our own miracles, Mr. Mayor. Outside, the sun hammers the dusty street once more. But Rachel's footsteps feel steadier. She's not alone in this fight, and with every passing minute, the clock ticks louder toward a showdown. No one may survive. Evening draws shadows across Red Hawk Bluffs, and the Belladonna Saloon buzzes with nervous energy. Whispers swirl around the small stage where a pair of local fiddlers try to liven the dour mood with ragged tunes. At a corner table, a group of ranchers discuss rumors that Crisp's men were spotted on the outskirts. Rachel enters, scanning for Delia Markham, who owns the place. Spotting her behind the bar, Rachel weaves through the patrons. She's aware of the sideways glances folks cast her way. In a town starved for heroes, she's become the subject of rumor, hope, or both. Delia hands a mug of beer to a farmhand before turning to Rachel. Heard you brought in 3 of Durning's men. Folks are talking about it nonstop. Rachel rests an elbow on the bar. No reason to celebrate yet. Crisp is still out there planning something bigger. We suspect an all-out takeover. Delia's brow furrows. That's what I feared. Another group of ranchers came by earlier, said someone's been scoping out their water. Well, Rachel glances around, lowers her voice. We also learned the mayor has been stalling, but he's terrified. Found some documents connecting Crisp to blackmail. I'm hoping to show them around, rally the folks. If they see proof of Crisp's crimes, maybe they'll stand with us. Delia wipes a glass expression. Grim. That's a mighty big maybe. Rachel people are frightened out of their wits. Rachel nods, an ache of uncertainty settling in her chest. Could use your help. If we're going to muster a resistance, we need a place to meet quietly, away from prying eyes. Delia arches a brow, sets the glass aside. And you want to use my saloon for that? After hours in the back room, a handful of folks, ones we can trust. We can't do this in broad daylight. We don't know who Chris might have paid off. Delia mulls it over, sighing. All right, I'll keep watch at the front. Make sure no uninvited guests sneak in. She softens Rachel. I don't want to see you die for this. I've watched enough good people get buried. A flicker of gratitude surfaces in Rachel's eyes. Thanks, but there's no turning back now. Hours later, well past midnight, a small group gathers in the saloon's back storage room among crates of whiskey and dusty barrels. By lantern light, Rachel shows them Crisp's threatening letters. Mayor Dunbar stands off to the side, wringing his hands. Sheriff Bray, Deputy Jem Hardy, Sam Tolliver, Ellen Shore from the boarding house, and a couple of ranchers lean forward. Expressions tense. This is evidence of Crisp's attempts to extort and control this town, Rachel says, voice low. He's just one piece of Durning's larger operation, but he's crucial. If we can bring Crisp down, show folks he's not invincible, maybe we can spark real resistance. One rancher, a lean man named Micah Bell, shakes his head. I've got a wife and kids. If I stand against Crisp and fail, they'll pay the price. Ellen Shore responds gently. They'll pay a bigger price if Durning's gang takes full control forever, living under their thumb. Do you want your children to grow up in that kind of place? A heavy silence. Micah stares at the floor. Sam Tolliver clears his throat, looking each person in the eye. We've seen how these outlaws operate. They pick us off one by one. But if we stand together, farmers, ranchers, shopkeepers, they can't take us all. We outnumber them. Courage is the real currency. Here Bray's expression is grim but determined. We can muster a militia. We've got some old rifles stashed away. Delia's willing to donate funds for more ammo. But we need time to prepare, and Crisp won't give us that. Rachel steps in. Right? So the plan is twofold. First, we secure the town's perimeter, post watchers on every road. Second, we lure Crisp into a trap. We can't take him on out in the open with all his men. We have to force him into a smaller confrontation. We can control Mayor Dunbar sweating profusely in the lantern light chimes in How Crisp Isn't Stupid. Rachel produces a small slip of paper. We got this from Jonas, one of the captured outlaws. It's a note Crisp left behind, instructing them to bring protection fees to an abandoned ranch south of Coyote Pass. Crisp might be checking that location soon. Jem Hardy winces from his leg wound, but nods. We could stage a payment drop. Make Crisp think we're cooperating when he arrives. He makes a knife hand gesture of ambush. A wave of nervous energy ripples through the room. They're talking about an all-or-nothing gambit. If Crisp suspects betrayal, he could return with reinforcements and level the town. Delia, who's been quietly listening from the door, says softly, It's risky, but what isn't these days? Rachel takes a steadying breath, locking eyes with each person in turn. We do this right, Chris falls, and we buy ourselves time to tackle Durning himself. We do it wrong. We might lose everything. A hush. Then Micah Bell lifts his head, determination replacing fear. Count me in. I'm tired of burying neighbors, one by one. Others agree. Mayor Dunbar, cheeks pale, finally nods. I'll help however I can. A plan forms under the faint glow of the lantern. In the hush of that back room, their quiet resolve stands in stark contrast to the outlaws' swaggering violence. A single question looms: can courage and cunning outmatch Crisp's ruthlessness? Only time and the readiness to sacrifice will tell. 2 days later, a ragged sun rises over Stone Creek Ranch, an abandoned property some 15 miles south of Red Hawk Bluffs. The ranch house is a crumbling structure of rotted beams and shattered windows, once a proud homestead, now reclaimed by desert dust. This is where Crisp expects to collect the next round of protection fees. Rachel Finch crouches in a grove of mesquite trees behind the house, peering through a pair of battered binoculars. She's accompanied by Sam Tolliver, who watches the horizon with unwavering focus. Farther to their flank, Deputy Jem Hardy waits with a rifle, his injured leg braced but functional enough to stand elsewhere. Concealed behind rocky outcroppings and inside the tumbled-down barn, a motley crew of ranchers and townsfolk hold their breath, guns at the ready. The plan is simple in theory, but nerve-wracking in practice. Mayor Dunbar is supposed to arrive with a fake payment and lure Crisp into the open. Once Crisp is exposed, they'll surround him, cut off escape routes, and capture him alive. Alive, they hope, so he can be leveraged to reveal Durning's location. Rachel lowers the binoculars, exchanging a worried glance with Sam. No sign of Crisp yet. Maybe he got wind of the ambush. Sam frowns. We planned it as carefully as we could. There's still time, but the longer we wait, the more chances he has to realize something's amiss. Across the field, Micah Bell and two ranchers lie hidden beneath tattered tarps. They shift slightly in the dust, ready to spring into action. The oppressive heat is stifling. Sweat drips down Rachel's temple. Finally, a faint silhouette appears on the northern horizon. Mayor Dunbar in his horse-drawn wagon trundling toward the ranch. The moment of truth, Rachel's chest tightens. If Crisp is on the way, he might have scouts, she whispers to Sam. Stay alert for any sign of outliers. The wagon rattles into the courtyard. Dunbar halts the horse, glancing around nervously. His face glistens with perspiration. For a tense minute, nothing happens except for the rustling of mesquite branches, then hoofbeats echo from the west. Rachel raises her binoculars again. 4 riders approach Crisp at the forefront. She recognizes him by the broad shoulders and black vest. Her pulse pounds. Crisp seems at ease, though his eyes flick suspiciously across the area as he reins in. From her vantage, Rachel can't hear every word, but Crisp's mocking tone carries. You got my money, Dunbar? The mayor climbs down, forces a shaky smile. Yes, of course. He gestures to a small chest in the wagon bed. Crisp dismounts, steps closer. Rachel's heart thuds. She signals Sam with a silent nod. Sam readies his rifle. Jem flanks around to secure the back of the ranch house. The ranchers shift in the barn. Any moment now. Crisp opens the chest, rummages through it. This better be the right amount. He lifts a bag of coins, eyes narrowed. Dunbar stands off to the side, sweat dripping. Suddenly, Crisp stiffens. He drops the coins, spinning to face the shattered windows of the house. Show yourselves, he roars. Rachel curses silently. They've been spotted. She leaps up, shouting. Now shots ring out, echoing in the courtyard. Crisp's men scramble for cover behind a battered water trough. Crisp himself dives behind the wagon. The mayor flattens to the ground, hands over his head. Bullets slam into wood and stone. Rachel carefully lines up a shot, aiming for Crisp's hat to force him down. She fires the bullet, ripping the wagon's edge. Crisp cusses, returning fire in her direction. Sam Tolliver empties his rifle, hitting one of Crisp's men in the shoulder. Jem Hardy manages to wound another, but Crisp, showing startling agility, rolls beneath the wagon and fires at the barn where 2 ranchers crouch. One rancher cries out. A bullet catches him in the arm. Rachel signals for a flanking maneuver. Micah Bell emerges from the barn side, shotgun raised. Crisp spots him too late. The shotgun booms, peppering Crisp's vest. Crisp staggers, dropping to one knee. For a second, Rachel thinks Crisp is down, but he grits his teeth, adrenaline surging. With a snarl, he raises his revolver and shoots Micah in the chest. Micah collapses, eyes wide. No, Rachel screams, rage and horror flooding her. She breaks cover, sprinting across the courtyard. Crisp, wounded and bleeding, tries to mount his horse, but the animal spooks under gunfire. Rachel closes in, taking careful aim. Crisp whips around, pistol aimed at her. In that sliver of time, she sees the madness in his eyes like a cornered wolf. She fires first. Her bullet slams into Crisp's upper arm, spinning him sideways. His shot goes wide. The pistol flies from his hand, skittering across the dirt. Crisp collapses, breathing raggedly. A tense stillness descends, broken only by the groans of wounded men. Rachel rushes to Crisp, kicking away his gun. Sam and Jem secure the other outlaws, who are too injured or frightened to resist. Behind them, Mayor Dunbar scrambles to his feet, pale-faced at the carnage. Rachel kneels over Crisp, pressing her revolver to his chest. He glowers at her through half-lidded eyes, spitting blood. "You think this changes anything," he rasps. "Durning, he'll burn you all alive." Rachel's chest tightens. She spins to see Sam kneeling over Micah, who's not moving. A knot of despair lodges in her throat. Crisp's capture came at a cruel price. She fights tears as she wrestles Crisp's hands behind his back. "You're done," she hisses, but Crisp only chuckles, a gurgling, hate-filled sound. They've taken Crisp, but lost a good man in the process. The cost of this victory sears Rachel's heart. She glances at Micah's body, the dust settling around him like a funeral shroud, and wonders how many more will fall before Durning is stopped. The sun sits low in the sky as a grim procession returns to Red Hawk Bluffs. Micah Bell's body lies wrapped in canvas in a wagon head, resting on a blood-stained pillow. The hush among the riders is deeper than any silence the town has known. Several men limp. Sam Tolliver has a fresh scrape on his cheek. Deputy Jem Hardy clutches his bandaged leg, pale but resolute. At the center of the convoy, Waylon Crisp is bound and gagged atop a horse led by Rachel Finch. She rides with shoulders rigid, the weight of Micah's death pressing on her. Crisp glares at her, from swollen eyes, each bounce of the saddle a reminder of his injuries. Townsfolk gather as the group arrives near the sheriff's station. Whispers ripple through the crowd. They caught Crisp. Micah's dead. Oh God. The shock of triumph and loss collides, crackling in the twilight. Sheriff Bray, waiting outside the station, rushes forward to help with the body. A handful of ranchers gently lift Micah's remains from the wagon, carrying him toward the undertaker's small building. A strangled sob escapes from a woman in the crowd, Mrs. Bell stepping forward with tears streaming down her cheeks. She clutches a dusty apron, disbelieving. Rachel dismounts, stiffly faces Mrs. Bell with anguish in her eyes. She begins, voice trembling. "I'm sorry." The widow shakes her head, tears glistening in fading sunlight. He wanted to protect us. I should have stopped him." Her voice breaks into quiet sobs as she moves to follow her husband's body. Rachel stands frozen, guilt gnawing at her. The cost of this ambush falls squarely on her shoulders. She designed the plan she lured Crisp in. Was it worth it? Sheriff Bray clears his throat. "Let's get Crisp inside, lock him up." He gestures to the station. Sam and Jem drag Crisp from the horse, ignoring his muffled curses. The crowd parts, giving them a wide berth. Inside, they secure Crisp in the single large cell, an upgrade from the cramped ones holding his men. Crisp's wild eyes flick from Bray to Rachel. Once the gag is removed, he spits. "You'll hang for this, all of you." Durning won't let it stand. Bray locks the cell, ignoring Crisp's threats. Rachel folds her arms, glaring at the outlaw. "Tell us where Durning is." Crisp smirks, face bruised and battered. "You think I'd betray him? Man's like a brother to me. He'll do worse than kill me if I squeal." Rachel's voice drops to a dangerous hush. "You're going to prison, Crisp. If you want any chance of not getting a rope around your neck, you'll talk." Crisp laughs, a broken, sinister sound. "I'd rather die than betray him, and you do." Gooder's just made that a certainty anyway. Jem's lip curls. "We'll see about that. We've got your buddies in the other cells. They might be more cooperative." Crisp's gaze flickers a trace of uncertainty, but he holds his tongue. Rachel exhales, turning away from the bars. The day's horrors swirl in her mind, gunfire echoing across the deserted ranch. Micah falling, Crisp is caught, but Durning remains at large. Bray places a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did good today, Finch. We took out a key figure. Crisp is a major piece of Durning's operation." She shrugs his hand off, voice hollow. "Micah's wife wouldn't say that." A heavy pause, Bray's voice is softer. "We can't save everyone in a war, You know that Rachel clenches her fists. I'm sick of wars. She storms out of the station, the door slamming behind her. Night descends on Red Hawk Bluffs, fueling the glow of lanterns along the street. Rachel drifts to the boarded-up church at the far end of town, seeking some semblance of quiet. She sits on the rickety porch steps, burying her face in her hands. The thirst for vengeance or justice feels hollow against the taste of morning. Footsteps approach Delia Markham, carrying a small lantern. She sets it down, sits beside Rachel. They watch the stars dot the sky in silence for a moment. Finally, Delia speaks, voice soft. You did what you had to do. Rachel doesn't look up. I keep telling myself that, but it doesn't stop the guilt. Delia's gaze glistens. Micah knew the risks. We all did. A gentle breeze stirs dust along the empty street. The hush of the night underscores the emptiness in Rachel's chest. She thinks of Amos, lost so long ago to a bullet in a dusty street, much like this. How many more must die before the outlaws are finished? What if Crisp is right, Rachel murmurs. What if Durning comes down on us like a storm? What do we do then? Delia inhales shakily. We stand. We bury our dead, and we keep standing. She sets a hand on Rachel's shoulder. We can't do it without you. Rachel lifts her head, eyes brimming with unshed tears. Delia's words glow with a quiet fire of hope. Slowly, the gunslinger nods. She understands now she's no mere passerby. She's become part of Red Hawk Bluff's story, and they've become part of hers. As they sit in the hush of a sorrowful night, an unspoken vow forms in Rachel's heart. Micah Bell's sacrifice won't be in vain. Crisp is captured, and that's a start. Next, she'll hunt Durning if it takes everything she has. Somewhere in the star-filled sky, she imagines Amos watching, urging her onward. She breathes in the cooling air, letting a flicker of resolve drive away despair. Tomorrow, new challenges await. For tonight, all she can do is grieve and gather the shattered pieces of hope. Dust devils swirl along the outskirts of Red Hawk Bluffs at midday, blowing tumbleweeds against the town cemetery, a humble plot behind the old church. A small crowd gathers in black garments and somber faces. They stand around a fresh grave, Micah Bell's final resting place. Rachel Finch is among them, hat in hand, struggling with the weight of guilt. She spots Mrs. Bell, tear-streaked cheeks hidden behind a thin veil. The preacher speaks soft words of comfort, but the wind steals them away before they fully reach the mourners. When the preacher ends his eulogy, folks place flowers on the coffin. Rachel steps forward last, dropping a single desert bloom she found near the ranch where Micah fell. Mrs. Bell looks at her, managing a small nod of acceptance. The crowd disperses slowly, leaving only Rachel and the widow. An uneasy silence stretches. Finally, Mrs. Bell gathers her resolve. Micah believed in you. Don't let his death be for nothing, Rachel's voice is hoarse. I won't, Mrs. Bell closes her eyes, exhaling. I'm taking my children to my sisters in Santa Fe. I can't stay here. Not anymore. Rachel understands. She quietly helps gather the widow's things, placing them in a small wagon. As Mrs. Bell departs the cemetery, Rachel remains behind, lost in thought. Soft footsteps approach Sheriff Bray. He glances at the retreating wagon, another family leaving. Soon there won't be many left to defend this place. Rachel clenches her jaw. We'll defend it anyway. Crisp is in your jail. Let's see if we can glean more about Durning's hideouts. Bray nods, leading her away from the grave. I've questioned Crisp's men, but they clam up when Crisp is around. They fear Durning more than prison. They pass through the dusty street heading toward the station. Along the way, they notice Mayor Dunbar arguing with Ellen Shore near the boarding house. Dunbar's face is red, Ellen's posture defiant, not pushing them away. Ellen's voice carries, "They're scared. If they want to leave, that's their right." Dunbar throws his hands up. "So we just watch the town empty. If no one stands their ground, this place is finished. I can't run a ghost town." Rachel steps in. We can't force people to risk their lives. If they want to leave, we let them. Dunbar grits his teeth. Damn it, Finch, we were supposed to rally them? Show them Crisp's capture was a turning point. Instead, folks are more scared than ever. She levels a glare at the mayor. Maybe if we had better infrastructure, a real telegraph, more resources, people wouldn't feel so alone. He deflates, frustration etched on his face. I tried, but Crisp's sabotage and intimidation kept that from happening. If only the governor would respond. Sheriff Bray taps Rachel's shoulder, nodding toward the station. Let's keep moving. Inside, Crisp's men slouch in their cells, looking surly. Crisp himself appears furious, pacing when he sees Rachel, his eyes narrow. Come to gloat, Rachel ignores his taunt. She focuses on Jonas Greeley, the outlaw who'd partly cooperated before he's perched on a cot in the adjacent cell. Anxiety in his fidgeting hands. Jonas, she says calmly, we need to know Durning's base of operations. Crisp won't talk, but maybe you value your neck more than loyalty to him. Crisp snarls. You open your mouth. Jonas and I'll personally slit your. Rachel slams a hand on the cell bars, rattling them. Shut up, Crisp, she glares daggers. You're not in charge here. Jonas flinches at Crisp's threat, but a flicker of desperate determination shows in his eyes. He'll kill me if I talk. Bray leans in, voice low. If you don't talk, you hang. If you do, maybe the court shows mercy. Maybe the marshal can protect you. Jonas swallows hard, glancing at Crisp's murderous glare. Finally trembling, he speaks. Durning moves around, but he has a stronghold in the Broken Mesa region. Deep canyons, plenty of caves. That's where he stores supplies, meets with other outlaw leaders. Crisp here helps set up watch points around the pass. Crisp hurls curses. Rachel's gaze narrows. How many men? How well armed? Jonas exhales shakily. Last I heard about 30, but Durning's expecting more. They've got crates of rifles from across the border. Enough ammo to fight off a small army. Bray and Rachel exchange a glance. 30 men could easily overrun Red Hawk Bluffs if they attacked in force. Crisp's capture might provoke Durning into attacking sooner rather than later. Why hasn't he attacked yet? Rachel presses. What's he waiting for? Jonas shrugs, still trembling. He wants total control, not a bloodbath. He's been pressuring folks to sell land cheap. Once that's done, he'll have the water rights and farmland. Then he chokes out the rest. A sobering truth. This is bigger than petty crimes. It's a methodical plan to dominate the region. Rachel steps back, mind racing. Crisp scowls, arms folded. Sheriff Bray rubs his chin. We've got Crisp as leverage. If Durning wants him back, maybe we can draw him out. Rachel's eyes narrow. That's the second time we've tried luring him. We lost a man last time. This time could be worse. Bray nods. We need more fighters, a real militia. Otherwise, we're no match for an organized gang of 30 or more. Silence settles thick with dread. Crisp's savage grin suggests he relishes the thought of them trying and failing to stand against Durning Jonas. Pale and sweating, lowers his gaze. Outside, a lone crow caws, cutting through the hush. Rachel's voice emerges firm, yet tinged with an undercurrent of anguish. Gather whoever is willing, arm them, train them if we must, because if we wait more, good people die or flee. This is our stand. Bray sets his jaw. I'll round up the volunteers. You, talk to the ones on the fence. Show them Crisp's threat for what it is. She nods, sparing a final glare at Crisp before stepping outside into the midday sun. The showdown with Durning looms. No one can run from it now. Not even the mayor. One way or another, Red Hawk Bluff stands on the brink of all-out war. In the dusty courtyard behind the Belladonna Saloon, a ragtag group of townsfolk assembles under Rachel Finch's stern gaze. The sun lowers in the sky, painting the ramshackle buildings in orange hues. This is a clandestine gathering. Sheriff Bray Deputy Jem and Sam Tolliver stand beside Rachel, while Delia Markham and Ellen Shore watch from the sidelines, offering quiet support. Before them, a mismatched militia of ranchers, farmers, and shopkeepers. Most hold old rifles or shotguns. A few grip pitchforks or wooden clubs. Their eyes reflect a combination of fear and determination. Rachel paces in front of them. We have limited time. She begins, voice echoing off the saloon's back wall. Durning's likely to respond to Crisp's capture. We have to be ready. A rancher named Clay Bowden, hat in hand, steps forward. How do we stand against trained guns? I know how to shoot a coyote, not an outlaw army. Sheriff Bray crosses his arms. We use every advantage. This town is your home, you know, every alley, every rooftop. We set defenses. Plan ambush, points coordinate signals. Rachel nods. We're not seeking a pitched battle. If Durning comes in force, we make every street a gauntlet. We force them into choke points. We're not letting them waltz in. Delia addresses the group. I'll keep supplies in the saloon cellar, ammo medical kits. If we need to fall back, that can be a safe station. From the rear, an older man named Otis Rourke raises a hand. And if Durning tries burning us out like he did with those ranches? Rachel's voice hardens. That's why we need water barrels stationed at key points. If fires start, we have to respond quickly. We can't let panic spread. Deputy Jim, still favoring his wounded leg, clears his throat. We'll also post night watchers on the outskirts. If they see a large group approaching, they fire a warning shot. That's the signal to arm up. A hush follows as the townsfolk exchange uneasy looks. They're stepping onto a razor's edge, becoming soldiers overnight. Rachel senses the collective tension, the fear of uncertain death. She steels herself and speaks quietly. No one is forced to fight if you can or won't find shelter or leave while you can. But know this, if we don't stand together, now there might not be a town left to save. A solemn moment, then Clay Bowden squares his shoulders. I'll fight one by one. Others murmur agreement. They might be fearful, but they refuse to be slaves to that fear. As the meeting breaks, folks split into small groups, practicing reloading, discussing vantage points or whispering prayers. Rachel watches with a pang of pride and sorrow. So many ordinary people forced into an extraordinary stand. Stepping aside, Rachel and Sheriff Bray consult a crude map pinned to a barrel. Bray points to roads leading into Red Hawk Bluffs. We place watchers here and here. If Durning comes, we'll get a heads up, but there's a risk if he outflanks us. Rachel nods, eyes tracing potential routes. He might send smaller squads around to hit from behind. We have to prepare for a multi-pronged assault. She thinks of Crisp's mocking face. Durning likely knows Crisp's locked away. He'll be furious. Maybe Crisp's men can't outnumber the entire militia, but they might sow chaos by targeting key structures like the water tower or the church. Sam Tolliver overhears and offers a suggestion. We could barricade the church. It's a sturdy building if we fortify the windows. Rachel sighs. Yes, but we need enough manpower to do that effectively. Bray rubs tired eyes. We'll do what we can. If we can hold them off for a day or two, maybe we can get a rider to Mesa Ford for reinforcements. We can't rely on the governor now, he's too far away. A swirl of frustration and urgency surges through Rachel. This will be their darkest hour. She softly says, we must pray. Durning chooses intimidation rather than an all-out assault. Bray snorts. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Night sets in the courtyard. Clearing, lantern light flickers, sending dancing shadows across the dusty ground. Rachel stands with Delia overlooking the half-trained citizens heading home to rest or guard duty. Delia places a hand on Rachel's shoulder. They trust you. You've become our rock. Rachel lowers her head. I'm no hero, Delia. I'm just trying to stop more graves from being dug. Delia's eyes shine with empathy. A hero is someone who cares enough to do something when others can't. That's all it takes. Rachel allows herself a faint smile, though her heart remains heavy. She recalls Crisp's final words. Durning will burn you all alive. She can almost smell the smoke already. In the hush of the warm desert night, she silently vows if Durning does come, she'll face him and his men head-on. Better to fall fighting for a town determined to stand than live haunted by the guilt of another lost cause. Dawn breaks with a blood-red sky wind, whistling through the silent lanes of Red Hawk Bluffs. A day that feels like an ending or a beginning. No one can tell. Yet Rachel Finch stands atop the newly reinforced church roof with Sam Tolliver, each peering through old spyglasses. The vantage point lets them see miles beyond town, though the swirling dust often obscures the horizon. Down below, Sheriff Bray and Deputy Jem lead a rotation of watchers on the perimeter. It's too quiet, Sam mutters, scanning the eastern approach. I expected Durning to hit us by now. Rachel lowers her spyglass lips pressed in a thin line. He might be massing his men at Broken Mesa, waiting until we drop our guard. Sam rubs the stubble on his chin, town's jumpy nerves wearing thin. We can't keep everyone on high alert forever. Rachel knows. The tension in Red Hawk Bluffs feels like a drawn bowstring, ready to snap at the slightest provocation. People are losing sleep, fear gnawing at them. Crisp's men remain locked up, but they're a constant reminder of the storm looming. Suddenly, a faint glimmer on the eastern road. Rachel raises her spyglass again, heart thudding. Dust cloud. A group of riders. Sam, she hisses. Look, he follows her gaze. 5, maybe 6 riders could be a scouting party. They scramble down from the roof shouting alerts. Within minutes, the watchers on the outskirts confirm the approach. The ragged militia gathers behind barricades, hearts pounding. Rachel stands near the main street, scanning for any sign of a larger force. The riders trot in slowly. As they near, Rachel recognizes the lead figure, a tall, gaunt man with iron-gray hair. His posture exudes authority, a rifle slung across his back. On his left is a younger gunslinger in a dusty coat. On his right, an older man brandishing a double-barreled shotgun. They stop just beyond rifle range. The tall man calls out, voice carrying in the still air, I'm Galen Durning. I hear you've got something of mine. Rachel grips the butt of her revolver, stepping forward. A handful of townsfolk, including Sam Bray and a few ranchers, flank her. You mean Crisp, she calls back. He's locked up for murder and extortion. Durning's lips curl into a humorless smile. He's more like a brother than a henchman. Miss Finch, I want him returned unharmed. If you comply, no one else needs to die. A hush, then Bray steps out, badge glinting. He's committed crimes, he'll face trial. That's the law, Durning chuckles, tapping the stock of his rifle. Law, my men are camped an hour from here, ready to ride in. I don't care about your law, I care about Crisp and about finishing what he started. Rachel notes Durning's confidence. She pictures the well-armed force Jonas described. The townspeople can't outmatch a full-on assault. Her heart bangs against her ribs. She calls out, we won't release Crisp, but we don't want bloodshed. Turn around, leave us be. Durning's expression hardens. That's not an option. Red Hawk Bluffs is strategic for our operation. I want this place under my protection, like Crisp wanted. Anyone who resists is a threat. Deputy Jem, rifle in hand, mutters under his breath. He's giving us an ultimatum. Indeed, Durning lifts his voice once more. I'll give you until sundown to decide. Hand over Crisp, lay down your arms, and you can continue your pitiful lives. Resist, and my men will raise your precious town to the ground. Every last building, tension crackles. Sam Tolliver, teeth clenched, shoulders his rifle, will never surrender to tyrants. Durning's eyes drift among them, lingering on Rachel. You have gall. I'll give you that sundown, Miss Finch. After that, no mercy. He wheels his horse, leading his men away at a casual canter, as if certain they can crush Red Hawk Bluffs at will. In the hush that follows, Bray curses, slamming a fist against a wagon. Townsfolk exchange alarmed whispers. Delia Markham, who watched from behind a barrel, steps forward, face pale. They'll come with everything they've got. Rachel stares after Durning, fists clenched. We hold Crisp or we hand him over. Either choice has consequences, Jem scowls. Handing Crisp over is a death sentence for him, but it might not spare us anyway. Durning doesn't strike me as a man of honor. The unspoken fear saturates the street even if Crisp is handed over. Durning might decide to seize the town protections fees. Endless subjugation. Bray sighs, lines of worry marking his features. We have hours to prepare. If we stand and fight, we need a plan that counters their numbers. Rachel nods, swallowing her fear. We have one advantage. We know the streets, and we're motivated. They might be bigger, but we're fighting for our lives. Let's gather everyone, strengthen barricades, position sharpshooters, and pray it's enough around them the townsfolk stir into frantic action. Some drag wagons to block roads. Others carry water barrels to strategic corners. The tension thickens, an electric current of fear and defiance. Rachel finds Delia gently squeezing her arm. We might not survive this. Delia's eyes shine with tears she refuses to shed. Then we die defending what's ours. Rachel nods, stepping away to organize the defenses. Her heart thrums with a terrible mixture of dread and resolve. Sundown approaches like a hangman's noose, and Red Hawk Bluff stands on the precipice of annihilation. No illusions remain. This will be the final test of their courage and of Rachel's. A fiery sun sinks toward the horizon, painting the sky in molten shades of orange and crimson. In the dimming light, Red Hawk Bluffs braces for battle. Makeshift barricades block the main street. Sharpshooters perch on rooftops. Buckets of water line the boardwalks. A meager guard against potential fires. Rachel Finch moves among the defenders, checking weapons, murmuring words of encouragement. She helps a trembling teenage boy load his father's rifle, instructs an elderly rancher on vantage points. In every pair of eyes, she sees the question, will we survive? Sheriff Bray emerges from the station, face drawn. Crisp is ranting in his cell. Claims Durning will rip us apart. Rachel grimaces. We can't let Crisp go. It won't stop the attack. Durning wants the town under his thumb, one way or another. Bray pulls a battered star from his pocket, pinning it to his vest. Then we make our stand. A hush settles as the sun's final rays stretch across the dusty street. A single bell tolls from the old church, a solemn knell for what's to come. Shadows lengthen, creeping like silent omens. Delia Markham steps out of her saloon shotgun, cradled in her arms. Ellen Shore stands beside her, face resolute. Sam Tolliver and Deputy Jem huddle near a barricade. Rifles ready, Mayor Dunbar, perspiring and fearful, brandishes an old pistol. He's likely never fired in anger. Then distant hoofbeats thunder. Dust rises on the edge of town. Through the gloom shapes emerge a line of riders. 10:15, no more Galen. Durning at the fore, iron gray hair catching the last glimmer of daylight. Behind him, a formidable force of outlaws, bristling with rifles and revolvers. They slow fanning out across the main street. Durning lifts a hand, halting his men. He calls out, voice slicing through the tense evening air. Your time's up, Finch. Rachel steps beyond the barricade, stopping midway. Her voice, though tight with adrenaline, remains firm. We're not surrendering. Turn back or prepare to face the consequences. Durning laughs, a sharp bark in the stillness. You've got nerve, I'll grant you that. He raises his rifle overhead, but this is your last chance. Hand over Crisp and pledge loyalty, or watch your precious town burn. Rachel's heart pounds. She glances back at the silent rows of determined faces. Then she looks at Durning. Go to hell for a moment, the world holds its breath. Then Durning's arm sweeps down, muzzles flash. The roar of gunfire erupts, echoing off wooden facades. Rachel dives behind a barricade, bullets slamming into planks. Chaos explodes. Defenders fire from windows and rooftops. Outlaws break into smaller squads seeking flanks. Some charge up the side alleys, exchanging shots with ranchers stationed there. The crisp stench of gunpowder fills the air. Rachel peeks over the barricade, squeezes off 2 shots, felling an outlaw who rushes forward. Beside her, Delia curses as a bullet splinters the wood near her head. They're trying to push us back, Delia shouts. Sam Tolliver manages to down another gunman from a rooftop vantage, but a returning shot grazes his shoulder, spinning him backward. He grimaces, pressing a hand to the wound, refusing to leave his position. Deputy Jem Hardy, adrenaline pumping, fires from behind a water trough. One bullet hits an outlaw's horse, sending the animal rearing. The outlaw tumbles off, only to scramble behind cover. Shots ring out from the saloon window. Ellen Shore, steady, despite trembling hands, keeps a small rifle trained on the street. She spots Durning riding left, flanked by half a dozen men. Left side, she screams. Rachel hears and signals to Bray. They shift to intercept. Durning's group tries to circle behind the church. The defenders there, 3 ranchers exchange gunfire, pinned by the outlaw's superior skill. Pressing her back to the barricade, Rachel reloads with swift, practiced motions. She's a swirl of fear and fury, each breath a fight for composure. Popping up, she fires at a pair of outlaws creeping along a side walkway. One goes down, the other ducks behind a rain barrel. In the distance, an orange glow flickers. Someone set a building alight. Shouts break out. Fire, fire. Townsfolk scramble for water buckets. Delia curses under her breath, vaulting from cover to direct a bucket brigade. Rachel's eyes dart everywhere, searching for Durning. She spots him dismounting near the old blacksmith shop, rallying a group of outlaws. Push forward, no mercy, he hollers. Teeth gritted, Rachel signals to Bray. They break cover, hugging the side of a building. Bullets chip away at the boards. A rancher near them takes a hit, crying out as he collapses. Bray grits his teeth, returning fire in short bursts, backing Durning's group away from the blacksmith shop. The wind shifts, carrying acrid smoke from the small fire. Underneath the haze of gun smoke, the night glows with muzzle flashes. Each shot roars like thunder, each scream a stab of heartbreak. The townsfolk fight bravely, but Durning's men keep coming. Sparks fly as a bullet ricochets off metal siding, grazing Rachel's sleeve. She hisses, scanning for a path to intercept Durning. If they can take him out, maybe the others lose momentum. But he's guarded by several seasoned shooters. The pitched battle intensifies. The water brigade manages to douse the flames before they spread, but that leaves fewer defenders at the barricades. Meanwhile, outlaws encroach from multiple angles, threatening to overrun the street. Rachel's rifle runs dry. She curses, switching to her revolver. Another bullet whizzes by, far too close. She ducks behind a corner, breath ragged. This is madness, a war zone in a once quiet frontier town. Galen Durning's triumphant laugh cuts through the din. "Fight all you want," he bellows. "Your precious crisp can rot, and so will you." Rachel steadies herself against the building, mind spinning. They must do something decisive soon, or they'll be ground down in this war of attrition. She prays there's still time to turn the tide and save Red Hawk Bluffs from complete destruction. Gunshots echo through the dusty alleys of Red Hawk Bluffs, each flash lighting the gloom like miniature lightning strikes. Rachel Finch, pinned beside the blacksmith shop, clutches her revolver, checking the remaining cartridges, only 2 left. Over the crack of rifles, she hears Sheriff Bray shouting to defenders on the other side, "Hold your ground." The older man's voice is raw with exertion and determination. Rachel steels herself, glancing around the corner to spot Durning orchestrating attacks from behind a half-collapsed wagon. 2 outlaws run across the street trying to flank Bray. Rachel spins out, firing one shot that catches the lead outlaw in the thigh. He spins and drops, howling. The second one fires back, the bullet thudding into the wooden wall near Rachel's head. She ducks, heart hammering behind her. Sam Tolliver emerges, panting, clutching a bleeding arm. "We're losing ground on the south side," he gasps. "At least 5 outlaws broke through. They're headed for the jail." Rachel's eyes widen with alarm. The jail where Crisp is locked up. If Durning's men free Crisp, the fight becomes even more perilous. Crisp can rally them from within the town. "I'll go," Rachel declares, reloading her revolver with shaky hands. She hands Sam a spare bullet pouch. "Stay alive." He nods, face grim, then limps toward Bray, continuing to hold the line. With a deep breath, Rachel breaks cover, sprinting through the swirling dust and gun smoke. Bullets zip past. She weaves between crates and overturned barrels, grateful for the darkness that cloaks her swift movement. She cuts down an alley, hearing the clang of boots on wooden boardwalks. 2 outlaws appear, rifles raised, instinct flares. Rachel dives behind a stack of lumber, narrowly avoiding a barrage. Splinters fly. She fires back one shot, grazing an outlaw's shoulder, sending him reeling. The other curses, dragging his wounded comrade away, presumably to regroup. Every corner of Red Hawk Bluffs is a battleground. Fire flickers in some distant building, though the bucket brigade keeps valiantly containing it. Rachel dashes past the boarding house, ignoring shouts of alarm from within. Her only focus reached the jail. Rounding a final corner, she spots them, 5 outlaws converging on the station's front door. Their silhouettes cut ominous figures against flickering lantern light. One is hefting a small keg of gunpowder, prepared to blow the door if necessary. Rachel slides behind a low fence. She quickly assesses they're out of easy pistol range, but maybe she can pick them off with careful shots. 2 bullets left. An outlaw starts planting the keg. Another lights a fuse. Panic surges in Rachel's chest. If the jail door is blown, Crisp will be free within moments. She aims her revolver, breath steady, ignoring the roar in her ears. She fires once. The bullet slams into the outlaw, with the fuse toppling him. The fuse goes out in the dust. Immediately, the others whirl in her direction, guns blazing. She ducks, pressing herself flat to the ground as bullets tear the fence apart. Scrambling backwards, she crawls behind a water trough. She has 1 bullet left. The outlaws fan out, flanking her position. The air crackles with tension. If she can't stop them now, Crisp is as good as free. Suddenly, from the shadows behind the jail, A single shot cracks. One outlaw staggers, collapsing in the dirt. Another figure emerges, a silhouette with a shotgun. Rachel blinks in surprise. Ellen Shore. She must have followed the outlaws, quietly circling behind them. Ellen racks the shotgun, trembling from head to toe, but determined. The outlaws jerk around, startled. Rachel seizes the moment. She pops up, squeezes off her final bullet, striking the man nearest the keg. He falls with a guttural cry. Now only two remain. They exchange wild shots at Ellen, who ducks behind the corner of the building. Rachel flings herself low, scoops a rifle from a fallen outlaw, checks the chamber, 3 rounds. Enough, she fires the rifle, kicking against her shoulder. One outlaw collapses. The other tries to bolt, fear surging. Ellen steps forward and blasts him with the shotgun, the recoil sending her stumbling. The outlaw crumples, panting. Rachel and Ellen stand among the fallen hearts, pounding in unison. The jail door remains intact, Crisp still secured inside. Rachel glances at Ellen, gratitude shining through her sweat-streaked face. "You saved me. You saved us." Ellen's voice shakes. "I couldn't just stay back. I kept thinking about what they'd do if Crisp got out." Rachel sets a hand on Ellen's shoulder. "Thank you. Now let's see if the sheriff needs help." But no sooner do they turn to leave than the station door creaks open. Crisp stands there, hands bound, flanked by an ashen-faced Deputy Jem. Crisp's lip is split, fresh blood trickling. Jem's voice trembles, rifle pointed at Crisp's back. "Caught him trying to pry the bars from inside. Someone must have tossed him a tool through the window, but I subdued him." Rachel breathes relief. She glances at Crisp, who scowls. "Durning's out there," Crisp snarls. "You think you can hold him off forever?" She doesn't bother responding. Instead, she gestures Jem to lock Crisp back in a cell. "Keep a close eye," she warns. "We'll fight outside." "You secure him," Ellen offers Jem a quick supportive nod. The deputy, though shaken, nods back. As they step outside, the night's battle rages on. Gunfire still crackles. Rachel readies the rifle, exchanging a determined look with Ellen. There's no time for fear. They have a town to save or die trying. Amid the chaos in Red Hawk Bluffs, the flames from scattered fires cast dancing shadows across the main street. Smoke hangs low, stinging eyes and throats alike. Gunfire echoes in bursts, then fades, then roars again. Rachel Finch and Ellen Shore dart between alleyways, returning to the center of the fray. They find Sheriff Bray pinned behind an overturned wagon, exchanging shots with a trio of outlaws entrenched near the blacksmith shop. Bray's breathing is ragged, sweat drenching his brow. Rachel slides beside him, rifle poised. "They're at the jail too, but we stopped them from freeing." "Crisp," Bray nods relief, warring with the urgency in his eyes. "We're holding, but they've got us pinned at 3 angles. Sam went to secure the church. I don't know how that's going." Ellen gulps. "I'll circle to the saloon, see if I can gather more defenders." With a shaky breath, she sprints off, shotgun in hand, vanishing into the swirling dust. Peeking over the wagon, Rachel fires a shot at the outlaws. One goes down, clutching his side. The other 2 retreat behind a stack of crates, returning sporadic fire. The standoff intensifies, bullets chewing into wood and dirt. A roar splits the air from the direction of the church. Rachel's heart sinks. She gestures to Bray. "They might be in trouble. Keep these men busy. I'll check it out." Anticipating an attack from that direction, in a sudden explosion of motion, Rachel stands. She fires one rifle shot, dropping the outlaw, rummaging for ammo. Another tries to spin, but she nails him with the second shot, click, rifle empty. She tosses it aside, drawing her revolver as the third outlaw whirls. They exchange fire at close range. Rachel's bullet catches him in the chest. His shot grazes her side, searing pain tearing through her. She bites back a scream, pressing a hand to the wound. Now it's just her and Durning, gunsmoke swirling. He scowls, leveling his rifle. For a heartbeat, they lock eyes, 2 predators in a cage. She flings herself behind a display barrel as he fires. The bullet blasts jars of preserves, sugary shards raining down. Durning curses. Rachel hears him reloading, frantically ramming a cartridge. Ignoring the burning pain in her side, she rolls, aims under the shelf, and squeezes the trigger. The bullet rips through the lower half of Durning's leg. He howls, dropping to one knee. Rachel staggers to her feet, approaching with revolver trained, chest heaving. Durning spits, blood eyes gleaming with fury. He reaches for a hidden pistol in his belt. She fires again, striking his wrist. The gun clatters to the floor. Yield. She hisses, voice trembling. Call off your men. Durning sways leg, bleeding profusely. Wrist shattered, hatred twists his features. I'd rather see this town burn. Rachel grits her teeth, stepping closer, ignoring her own wound. Your empire dies here, Durning. He laughs delirious. You kill me, others will rise. You can't stop the tide. Her hand shakes on the gun. Another wave of pain flares in her side, threatening her balance. She thinks of Crisp's cackling threats of the graves already dug. Maybe so she breathes, but not in Red Hawk Bluffs. She slams the butt of her revolver across his temple. He crumples unconscious, blood soaks the floor. Rachel staggers, panting. The final confrontation is done. Durning is beaten, but outside the battle still rages. She can only hope the sight of their fallen leader ends the outlaws' will to fight. Clutching her side, she lurches toward the door, determined to see if the town still stands. Rachel stumbles onto the mercantile's porch, leaning on the doorframe. The gunshot wound in her side throbs with every heartbeat, but she fights to remain upright. Galen Durning lies unconscious inside, possibly bleeding out. Outside, the firefight continues, though the intensity wanes. The outlaws see Rachel battered but alive, stepping out of the building where Durning disappeared. Her revolver dangles in her hand, muzzle smoking. Across the street, a group of outlaws exchange glances. One kneeling behind a crate shouts, "Boss? Boss!" There's no response. Confusion ripples through them. They begin to fall back, unsure whether to continue. A voice rises near the sheriff's station. Sheriff Bray calling out, "They're retreating. Push them back." Town defenders rally, pressing forward from cover, firing warning shots that zing over the outlaws' heads. Tension breaks as the attackers realize their leader is down or absent. The will to fight drains away. Some outlaws drop their guns, raising hands in surrender. Others flee toward the horses, tethered on the outskirts. Scattered shots ring out, but the pitched battle dissolves into skirmishes and chases through side streets. Rachel breathes a ragged sigh, relief tinged with dizziness. The adrenaline rush that sustained her is fading, replaced by searing pain. She staggers forward, nearly collapsing on the wooden porch steps. Two ranchers rush up, wide-eyed. "Miss Finch, are you?" One begins, but she waves him off. Focusing, Durning's inside alive. Secure him, they hurry inside. Guns raised. Meanwhile, Rachel forces herself to cross the street. Ankles wobbling, townsfolk emerge warily from hiding. A heavy hush descends as the last outlaws scatter into the night or submit to capture. Delia Markham appears at Rachel's side, hooking an arm around her waist for support. "Dear God, you're bleeding," she exclaims. Voice trembling, Rachel's vision wavers. "I'll be fine," she mutters, though her legs feel like lead. Sheriff Bray jogs up, face coated in dust and sweat. "They're pulling back. We did it." "Durning," Rachel nods weakly. "Inside wounded. He won't be leading any more raids." Bray's eyes flick to her wound, alarmed. "We need to get you patched up. Ellen's setting up a makeshift infirmary at the saloon." Rachel tries to protest, but Delia insists, guiding her gently toward the saloon. As they pass the jail, Crisp's anguished yells echo through the night. He must have realized Durning is finished. The twisted empire they built is crumbling at the Belladonna Saloon. The battered door swings open to reveal cots lined up along one side. Battered men and women moaning as Ellen and Sam Tolliver do their best to tend wounds. The smell of blood and whiskey merges in a harsh swirl. Delia helps Rachel onto a cot, pressing a cloth to her side. "You're lucky it looks like the bullet just grazed you, but it's deep enough to bleed badly." Rachel clenches her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead. She glances around at the wounded townsfolk. The cost of this defense is scrawled on every bandaged arm and tear-streaked face. Yet there's relief, too, in the knowledge that they fought back and won. Ellen arrives, kneeling beside Rachel. "Stay still. I'll clean it." She rummages for bandages and a small bottle of antiseptic. "This will hurt." Rachel nods, bracing herself. The sting is white-hot, but she remains silent. Gritting her teeth, she stares at the saloon's rafter memories swirling. Crisp's sneer, Durning's twisted grin. Micah Bell's lifeless body. She wonders if it's truly over. In the corner, Sam Tolliver aids a wounded rancher who might lose a leg if infection sets in. Bray leans against the bar's shoulders, sagging from exhaustion. Outside, the night air carries voices of townsfolk ensuring fires are out and searching for any remaining pockets of outlaws. Mayor Dunbar enters, face pale, a makeshift sling on his left arm. He took a bullet grazing during the fight. His gaze lands on Rachel. I can't believe we actually did it, he whispers. Durning's captured. She nods once, blinking through the pain. He won't walk away from those injuries. If we get him to a proper trial, maybe the territory will see justice done. Dunbar exhales relief mingled with lingering fear. We'll have to guard him well. If any of his men remain loyal, they might try something. Rachel can't muster the energy to respond. She closes her eyes as Ellen continues bandaging. The entire saloon hushes, a collective exhale of survival. In that silent moment, the magnitude of what they've endured washes over them. They've fought off a small army, bested two fearsome outlaws, but the cost is etched on every injury, every wide-eyed stare. Some houses are scorched, some families fractured, but the spirit of Red Hawk Bluffs stands unbroken. Delia squeezes Rachel's hand gently. You saved us. You and the Sheriff Sam. Everyone. But you were the spark. A wave of emotion chokes Rachel. She thinks of Amos, how he died in a place much like this. For once she dared to stand to fight, and this time the story ended differently. With trembling lips, she manages a small nod. Just promise me you'll keep building something good here, she whispers, tears threatening. No more letting fear rule you. Delia's eyes shimmer. We promise. Outside, the night sky glitters with more stars than Rachel has seen in a long time. A fresh wind picks up, blowing away the smell of gunmoke. Tomorrow, Red Hawk Bluffs will wake to a new dawn, free of Crisp and Durning. But for now, all Rachel can do is lie still, battling waves of pain, and let the relief of victory mingle with the heartbreak of what it cost. Days later, a wary peace settles over Red Hawk Bluffs. The outlaws who survived have either fled into the desert or languish in makeshift cells. Galen Durning, heavily bandaged and under constant guard, awaits transport to the territorial courts. Crisp and his men have already been shipped off under armed escort, though Crisp swore bloody vengeance as he was dragged away. Rachel Finch wakes in the boarding house, propped on pillows, her side thickly wrapped with clean bandages. Light pours through the window, warmer and gentler than she remembers. Her body aches, but the bullet wound is healing well enough. Ellen Shore steps in, carrying a tray of food. Morning, she says softly, setting the tray on a bedside table. How's the pain? Rachel manages a wry smile. Tolerable, thanks to you. She glances at the tray's contents. Bread broth, a small cup of coffee. Her stomach growls. I guess I'm hungry for once. Ellen chuckles, relief in her eyes. That's a good sign. They chat quietly as Rachel eats. Ellen updates. Her repairs are underway. The blacksmith shop is forging new door hinges. The saloon is restocked. Families who fled might return, now that Crisp and Durning are no longer a threat. The scattered farmland fires have been contained, though some fields are lost. After finishing, Rachel gingerly swings her legs off the bed. Time I got up, can't stay in bed forever. Ellen tuts but helps Rachel stand. She hands over Rachel's hat, which has been neatly brushed free of dust and bloodstains. Be careful, you're still healing. Rachel leans on Ellen as they leave the room and head downstairs. In the boarding house parlor, they find Mayor Dunbar speaking softly with Sheriff Bray. Both men look up, startled, then relieved to see Rachel mobile. Miss Finch, Bray greets, removing his hat respectfully. How are you holding up, Rachel? Inhales, I'll live. How's the town? Dunbar musters a thin smile. Standing, the official notice from the territorial marshal arrived yesterday. He's sending a judge and some lawmen to formally charge Durning. They're praising us for capturing him, calling it a big step in cleaning up the territory. Rachel's eyes flick with amusement. We did all the work ourselves, Bray smirks wryly. Better late than never, I suppose. Once the judge gets here, Durning's fate is sealed. Silence falls. The roiling fear that once choked Red Hawk Bluffs has eased, replaced by cautious optimism. The nightmares might linger, but the immediate threat is gone. Dunbar exhales, hands trembling slightly. Miss Finch, I never properly thanked you for saving this place even after all my failings. Rachel tilts her head, voice gentle. You're still mayor. The town needs someone to organize the rebuilding. Just make sure you do it without bowing to criminals. He grimaces. Be careful. With a curt nod, Rachel weaves through debris and swirling smoke, each footstep an exercise in caution. She hears sporadic gunshots, screams, curses, the meltdown of a frontier town. At the church's front steps, she finds Sam Tolliver kneeling beside two wounded townsfolk, pressing a rag to a bleeding arm. A trio of outlaws lies sprawled nearby. Bullet-riddled Sam's face twists with anguish. They tried to set the church on fire. We stopped them. Barely, Rachel kneels, helping apply pressure. Any sign of Durning? Sam huffs. Not here. He's probably focusing on the main street or the station, trying to break our lines. Rachel nods. Stay with the wounded. If you can move them to Delia's saloon for cover, Sam's eyes flicker. We're losing too many, Rachel. She sets her jaw. We have to finish this. Then she hears it. Durning's voice rising above the din, calling out from near the mercantile. Rachel tenses. She leaves Sam to his task, pushing forward. At the intersection by the mercantile, a swirl of gunfire crackles. About 6 outlaws remain, forming a defensive ring around Durning. The store's windows are shattered and the door has been kicked in. A few townsfolk cower inside, unarmed, terrified. Rachel ducks behind a water barrel, scanning. Durning stands in the open, rifle in hand, shouting, "Face me, Finch. You wanted a fight, come out and fight." Adrenaline spikes. She's armed with a nearly empty rifle and a single sidearm with limited rounds, but if she can take out Durning, maybe his men will break. She shouts back, voice echoing in the battered street. Come out yourself, coward. You hide behind your men while they die for your greed. A grim laugh escapes him. Greed, I'm building an empire. The weak can't survive in these lands without men like me. Another shot whizzes overhead, forcing Rachel to duck lower. She sees 2 militiamen pinned behind a supply crate, outmatched by Durning's well-positioned outlaws. This can't go on much longer. The defenders are exhausted, outgunned, some wounded. In a moment of fierce resolve, Rachel dashes across the street to another piece of cover. A half-demolished wagon, bullets chase her, splintering wood. She grits her teeth, returning a shot that wings an outlaw. The man howls, dropping behind cover. From her vantage, she sees Durning reloading. Beyond him, an alley that leads behind the mercantile. Maybe she can flank him if he's too focused on the frontal assault. She signals to the 2 militiamen behind the crates. Cover me! They nod, popping up to lay down suppression fire. Though their aim is shaky, Durning's men respond, peppering the crates with lead. Rachel seizes the distraction, slipping into the alley. Her boots crunch broken glass. Heart pounding, she creeps around the back of the mercantile, stepping over a moaning outlaw. The smell of gunpowder and blood hangs thick. A side window is smashed open. She peers in, seeing Durning's profile in the flickering lantern light. He stands near a shelf of flour sacks, back, partially turned, focusing on the street. 3 outlaws nearby. One is rummaging for supplies, ammo. Maybe Rachel's chest tightens. If she rushes in, she'll be outnumbered. But if she waits, Durning might realize she's gone. She readies the rifle, which holds 2 rounds. Then her revolver, 4 bullets remain. Taking a breath, she slips through the shattered window frame, boots landing in spilled flour. She steps behind a counter, silent as possible. The outlaw's attention is on the front door. A flush of gratitude colors Dunbar's cheeks. Understood. Bray glances out the window at the dusty street. Things will change now. We've proven that outlaws aren't untouchable. People have hope again. Rachel's chest tightens, a swirl of relief and lingering sorrow. She's seen the cost of this hope. The graves in the cemetery are fresh, and not all the wounded will fully recover, but the transformation is real. Red Hawk Bluffs no longer cowers in shadows. She steps toward the door, feeling the pull of the open road despite her injury. Her entire life has been a series of towns, a series of fights, always drifting onward. Yet something tugs at her heart, an inclination to stay, to see what a future could look like in a place she helped save. Ellen picks up on her hesitation. Will you stay, Rachel? The town could use someone like you, someone who knows the difference between violence and justice. Rachel's eyes flick away. Memories swirl Amos's grave in another dusty town, the weight of guilt she carried for years. She's never paused long enough to plant real roots. I'm not sure, she admits. I've spent so long running. Bray's surprisingly gentle, says sometimes you have to stop running to heal. Dunbar nods. We could use a new deputy or even a new sheriff if you like. He glances at Bray, who shrugs, not offended. The idea of wearing a badge both intrigues and frightens Rachel. She looks at Ellen, who waits hope, mingling with acceptance that Rachel might leave. Let me think on it, she finally says. Stepping outside, she inhales the desert air, tinted with the scent of scorched wood, but also the promise of regrowth. Citizens wave shyly, offering smiles, a stark contrast to the suspicious stares when she first arrived. She's become part of their story, whether she intended to or not. Rachel walks slowly along the boardwalk, wincing with each step, but refusing to retreat. She passes the saloon, its broken windows replace the bullet holes patched. Delia spots her from inside, lifting a hand in greeting. Rachel nods back. Change is in the very dust of Red Hawk Bluffs now. Outlaws no longer set the rules. The townspeople do. They found their courage, and so did Rachel. She touches the bandage at her side, a reminder that she nearly died for this place. And for once, she thinks it might have been worth it. A flicker of warmth lights her heart, maybe the first real flicker since Amos's passing. Standing at the end of the street, she looks toward the horizon, the same horizon she once thought to ride off into. This time it doesn't look like an escape. It looks like a choice. 2 weeks later, a stagecoach rattles into Red Hawk Bluffs, carrying the territorial judge and a pair of marshal's deputies. Townsfolk line the street, curious and anxious. They've spent the days rebuilding, burying the dead, and nursing the wounded. Galen Durning recovers behind bars under round-the-clock guard. Rachel Finch stands near the station with Sheriff Bray, who's looking less haggard than before. Her bandages remain hidden under a loose blouse, but she moves with more confidence now. The stagecoach halts. A marshal's deputy disembarks first, scanning the area. Then the judge, a sturdy man with gray sideburns, climbs down, muttering about the heat. Judge Barnaby Glenn, he announces, I trust you have Durning in custody. Bray tips his hat. We do. He's wounded but alive. Judge Glenn nods. We'll conduct a hearing here. If there's enough evidence, we'll escort him to Yuma for trial. His gaze flicks to Rachel. Curiosity in his eyes. Who might you be? Miss Rachel meets his gaze calmly. Rachel Finch, I led the defense that captured Durning. The judge eyes her battered hat, the faint line of scarring beneath her ear. Indeed, we've heard stories of your skill and bravery. He gestures to his deputy. We'll want your testimony, and Crisp's men, if any, are still around. Bray nods. We have sworn statements plus the outlaws themselves. Several have confessed under questioning. With that, the group heads inside. A brief makeshift hearing unfolds in the large room, once used as a waiting area for travelers. Townspeople file in, many standing along the walls. Durning, forced to sit in chains, glares daggers at Rachel and Bray. The judge listens to depositions, inspects signed confessions. He scowls at the accounts of violence and extortion. When all is said, Judge Glenn stands imposing in posture. I find more than sufficient grounds to bind Galen Durning over for trial. He'll be moved to Yuma under heavy guard to face charges of murder, arson, conspiracy, and more. A hush, then soft murmurs of relief. Durning tries to rise, but the guard yanks him down. He spits curses at Rachel. She meets his glare unflinching. This time his eyes hold no triumph, only venomous defeat. Once Durning is led away, applause breaks out among the townsfolk. Some weep openly at the vindication. The judge raises a hand to quiet them. Peace, everyone. Your ordeal isn't over, but this is a critical victory for law and order, and it's thanks to your courage and the bravery of Miss Finch. Rachel feels the weight of their stares. She's never courted recognition, preferring anonymity. Yet gratitude radiates from these people, their eyes filled with genuine respect. She nods quietly in acknowledgement. As the hearing concludes, folks disperse, whispering about the future. Some approach Rachel to shake her hand or offer heartfelt thanks. She tries to accept their praise graciously, though part of her longs to fade from the limelight. Judge Glenn approaches accompanied by the marshal's deputy. Miss Finch, would you consider joining the marshal service? We can use skilled individuals who understand frontier justice. You'd be an asset. A flicker of surprise crosses her features. She glances at Bray, who stiffens slightly. She imagines life as a territorial deputy, chasing outlaws across endless miles, never settling in one place. She's done that in her own way already, always drifting, always fighting. She answers slowly, I appreciate the offer. Your Honor, but I'm not sure I can keep wandering. Might be time I found a place to rest. Judge Glenn nods, respect in his eyes. Then we wish you well, Miss Finch. Whatever you choose, you've done a great service to the people here. He places a card in her hand. If you change your mind, come find me. He and the deputy leave to arrange Durning's transfer, and Rachel steps outside into the midday sun. The bustle of the street is different now, livelier, hopeful. The bullet holes in walls are patched, broken windows replaced with fresh glass. The heavy gloom that once pervaded has lifted, replaced by the hum of determined reconstruction. She finds Delia Markham near the saloon, discussing supply orders with a traveling merchant. Delia waves Rachel over. So the big trial's going to Yuma. Good riddance. She notices Rachel's pensive expression. Something on your mind? Rachel sighs. The judge offered me a place among the territorial marshal's staff. That's the second badge I've been offered in as many days. Delia raises an eyebrow and, I'm tired of running. Tired of violence too, Rachel admits. But maybe here I can help keep the peace, build something better. Delia smiles, relief evident. We'd be happy if you stayed, Rachel. You belong here as much as any of us, across the street. Ellen Shore waves cheerily, a sign that the boarding house is ready for more guests. Mayor Dunbar oversees the reconstruction of the telegraph line, ensuring the town won't remain cut off. Sheriff Bray tips his hat from afar, possibly aware that he might soon have to share or even relinquish his role. Rachel lingers, letting the warm wind rustle her hair. The horizon no longer calls to her like it once did. Instead, the dusty boardwalk under her boots feels like solid ground, like home. At last, she turns to Delia, a faint smile on her lips. How about a drink, I hear? Your whiskey is top-notch, Delia grins. On the house for the hero of Red Hawk Bluffs. A gentle laugh escapes Rachel, though tears threaten at the corners of her eyes. She's not sure she'll ever feel comfortable wearing the word hero, but she knows she's done something worthwhile. Something that gives her hope. They head into the saloon together, passing under the sign still scarred by bullet holes. The scars remain as a reminder of what they endured and overcame. People greet Rachel, offering heartfelt gratitude, and for once, she doesn't shy away. She raises her glass quietly, toasting not her own victory, but the collective spirit that refused to die under fear. Micah Bell's sacrifice, the Walters family's pain, Crisp's downfall, Durning's capture, none of it was in vain. Tonight, Red Hawk Bluffs celebrates, uncertain but unafraid of the future. And Rachel Finch, with a healing wound at her side and a growing warmth in her heart, finally allows herself the possibility of a new beginning here among friends who stood in the light when darkness threatened to swallow them all. In the end, Rachel Finch's courage inspired the people of Red Hawk Bluffs to reclaim their lives, rebuild their homes, and stand proudly together against any darkness that might threaten their peace again. Rachel herself found a new home, choosing to remain and help the community heal from its wounds, finally letting go of the burdens she had carried alone for so long. This story reminds us all that no matter how daunting the odds, courage, unity, and resilience can transform even the bleakest situations into opportunities for growth and redemption. What did you think of Rachel's journey? Would you have made the same decisions she did? Leave a comment below and let's discuss. Your thoughts and ideas help us bring more engaging stories to life.